Hey and good morning. There's a story which I've never told you, a personal story about the Munsters and a murder and how I got caught up in a murder inquiry which I partially solved in Wisconsin. It's really funny. I work in TV. I'm a filmmaker, but people used to ask me if I could help program their VCRs, their VHS machines, because they were so hard. I also found them hard. And one day at the local airport where I had my Cessna, an electronics technician who worked at the airport came to me and said, "You work in TV. You can solve the case of my brother's murder, who was possibly murdered by Eddie Munster." I was going, "What? Frank, what's going on?" And he gave me a hard drive. Here's the story. I've never told this publicly because I feel that it was a bit personal and a bit close to, a genuine legal case, and sadly somebody was murdered. But the case has now been solved in a really interesting way, and I feel that I can share this now with you and, publicly. So it turns out that Frank, my friend at the airport's brother, who lived in central Wisconsin, one night had a bunch of people come to his house and shoot him and kill him in his hallway. Now, Frank's brother was a electronics expert and maybe a little paranoid because he was living next to this guy. This guy's played the famous child in the Munsters, Eddie Munster, and was now living in Wisconsin. On the night of the murder, a car drives up my friend's brother's driveway with multiple CCTV cameras. 5 people jump out and confront my friend's brother at his house and shoot him in the hallway. Now, it turns out that this guy who was murdered had set up multiple CCTV cameras around and a hard drive disc recorder. And when the police came to investigate, Frank, my friend, said, well, my brother had probably caught the whole thing on his CCTV. But really strangely, and this was like, to this day, I don't really understand what happened. The police, instead of playing back the CCTV, or maybe they did, they pressed erase and they deleted and formatted my friend's brother's CCTV hard drive. And so none of the video evidence was available in court to investigate the crime. And so the whole thing was terribly complicated. My friend took the hard drive, it was an internal hard drive, and brought it to me at the airport in Wisconsin and said, can I arrange it for it to be unformatted or unerased? Now, you smart people will know that when you delete a file or format a hard drive, it doesn't actually erase it, it doesn't overwrite it, it just lets a new file in the future use that space where the old file was. So over time, slowly the old files are now available to be overwritten with new magnetic orientation data of the new stuff. Well, the guy died and the CCTV was switched off and the hard drive was just pressed delete. The police didn't really understand that nothing was actually erased, it was just given permission for the drive to overwrite it in the future. But there was no future, the guy was dead. And Frank had the drive. So I said, oh yeah, that sounds like the data's still there. It's just we need to change the permissions to unformat it to go back in time, and maybe we can recover the video files. So I flew back to London in Europe with the drive and contacted a data recovery company in London who I explained the story about Eddie Munster and the murder, and they went, oh, okay. And they unerased the drive and phoned me a few days later and said, yeah, this drive's full of very interesting video files. And I never actually hooked it up. I didn't have the facilities in London to hook up an internal drive to actually examine the files. So I just flew back to central Wisconsin and gave it to my friend Frank, who was helping the investigation because he felt that the police hadn't really done a good job. And why had they deleted his brother's CCTV? Oh boy, it solved the case. Frank managed to recover the entire video files, and it turned out that Eddie Munster didn't kill him. My friend's brother was killed by his wife, who had been previously accused of killing previous husbands, all in the aim of getting their life insurance money. And she was convicted of this, and this woman was in fact the murderer. Whether she murdered him herself or got a gang, hired a gang, and that could have been I don't know, I don't want to go there. Somebody killed him, and it was all supposedly recovered from the unerased hard drive from the CCTV recording. So I've never told that story because I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know the relationship between my friend's brother and the TV star. I mean, but I thought you would like to hear it because I think it's an interesting case of strangeness in Wisconsin. And that leads me on to an even stranger case, this case of the man who shone laser pointers at aircraft at O'Hare Airport, worked with Oliver North, and ended up being the inspiration for the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This guy. He invented the first laser scalpel. That idea was picked up by some extreme right-wing politicians out of Milwaukee who forced him or persuaded him to make a laser weapon, just a light source, which they, not him, tried and blackmailed the US government by shining it into pilots' eyes while landing at O'Hare Airport, and they were caught and convicted and sent to jail. But the laser pointers that the Wisconsin man made were sold and financed by Oliver North, who used them to fight a campaign in Central America, the Contras and the Sandinistas, as a non-lethal weapon device. And today, if you ever shine a laser pointer at an aircraft, it's not a local misdemeanor. It's a federal offense because of Oliver North and because of this man who made these lethal laser pointers. But the end of the story is really strange. The guy was arrested, he got let off with Oliver North, the whole case was dropped, and he retired back to Warsaw in central Wisconsin, where he set up in a local field these lasers and very powerful searchlights and sat out in the field at night with his Hammond organ playing 5-note sequences, duh, 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 and flashing lights to attract passing flying saucers. Yeah. The inspiration for this scene from Close Encounters of a Third Kind.
If everything's ready here on the dark side of the moon, play the 5 tones.
Was he onto something? Who knows? But I tell you what, I've never lived in a stranger place than Wisconsin. It's beautiful, the people are really genuine, but there's a lot of very messed up crimes go on in that place. I really never wanted to share this story, but I think it's time. Today I was contacted by somebody who knows the laser pointer man and wants to talk to me a bit more about his life. So I will bring you that. Here is a link to the film about the laser man. You really have to watch it. It's fascinating. It's a piece of hidden history. And I think it actually involves the weaponization of advanced physics. And that's what I'm really passionate about and really want to share here on social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Patreon. I need to reach you. I really have good stories. I really do know interesting people who've done interesting things. Because of that, the truth is out there.